let's turn back to politics. And joining me now, Stephen Conroy and Michael Kroger, our regular panel on a Tuesday. Great to see you both. Stephen, it's not every day we talk about tech giants, but Elon Musk, he's back and really taking on Prime Minister Albanese head on when it comes to what he claims as censorship. Most people would think what the government, opposition and others are arguing for is just some decent standards on Elon Musk's platform, Stephen.
No, look, absolutely. And, Elon Musk and a number of the, these tech giants don't believe they should even remotely have to consider complying with international countries' laws. People just need to understand that these big tech giants have hidden behind pretending we're just the platform, we're never the person that's responsible, we don't have to be held accountable, we shouldn't have to have any responsibility. And they've done that, pretending they're still, two people in a garage. These are billionaires, some of the richest people in the world, who are now so wealthy and so powerful, they believe they can flaunt almost every other country's laws, except China, of course, where they'll do what the Chinese government tell them. So Peter Dutton, Anthony Albanese, Michelle Rowlands, all of these people, absolutely the whole Australian community should be behind them in wanting to say, we just expect some decency and you to comply with our laws.
Yeah, well, Michael Kroger in the studio today, I've had Jackie Lambie, I've had Sarah Hanson-Young, we've had, and as Stephen alluded to, Peter Dutton's spoken on it, the Prime Minister, everyone across the board. There was one senator who's posted that alleged crime again on Twitter in the last couple of hours. I'm not going to mention the person because they're just being clearly an attention seeker and trying. I don't think they warrant being mentioned, to be quite frank. But Michael, most clear-thinking people agree with what Stephen has said there.
Well, I agree with him 100%. He's absolutely right. And there's a great unity in this country now in relation to social media. And this is one of the great problems of the modern era. The traditional media is regulated a certain way, and these cowboys are regulated in almost no way. And you can see things on social media that you can't print in The Age, the Australian, the Courier Mail, or show on Sky, 2GB, 3AW, etc. I mean, there's such a great disparity between the way publishers are regulated. It's reaching absurdity levels. And secondly, these people, these big techs, Facebook, etc., Meta, etc., these people are amongst the biggest tax avoiders or minimisers, should I say, that we've ever seen. So many of them have got operations in Ireland with tax mechanisms which see them having countries as tax residents of tax havens in the Bahamas, etc., etc. They use the old double Irish sandwich, which they're closing down on, of course. But eventually, these people have used tax minimisation. Some would say tax avoidance mechanisms. Apple are up there with them as well. And these people are, moral cowboys. And they need to be brought to heel. And I have to say, Albanese is absolutely right, as is Peter Dutton, as is Stephen Conroy.
Yeah. Stephen, the interesting thing here as well, and in our game, we try and look at are there pros and cons in this? Are there any negatives to the government just saying to this mob, sort this out or you're gone? What's the negative here? I know there's the free speech question, but we're all for free speech, but we're not for promoting violence and infecting kids with appalling images, as Michael rightly pointed out, that no other broadcaster is allowed to run unfettered.
Look, they have a powerful lobby behind them. Some of the wealthiest people in the world. When I am unfortunately, tragically, very familiar with the Tigers. I had a massive brawl with Google. And back in my day, Google basically controlled the Obama State Department and had people placed in Obama's office in the White House. And they actually ran front page stories in Australia. The ambassador went on Q&A and made all sorts of ludicrous assertions like the sea is free, the air is free, and the internet is like that. Except there's been 1,000 years of the laws of the sea. They're called the laws of the sea. And I don't know the last time anyone checked, but before a plane can take off to fly into the sky, the free air, it has to be have proper safety standards. The crew have got to be certified to certain levels. The pilots have got to have an incredible amount of training to certain levels, because what you're allowed to do between 0 and 5,000 feet, 5,000 and 10,000 feet, and 10,000 and 20,000 feet. This idea that they should be above, and they literally mean above the law, is just farcical. And as long as there is united and strong leadership from not just Australia, but a range of countries, the EU is the jurisdiction where it's had the most successful pushback. It's forced Apple to change. It forced Microsoft to change. Yes, Australia is only a small country and they can treat us with contempt, but build the coalition to say enough is enough. The Chinese, TikTok, they have learned how to manipulate our country. They have learned how to manipulate our public opinion. They are masters of this game now, and they are applying it to issues like the Middle East, where you see complete propaganda. So I'm getting a bit passionate there and talking too much on you there, Kieran. But I'm genuinely passionate.
No. Well, the thing is, and this is the question I'll put to Michael as well. When you've got such a broad political view here, supporting a decent crackdown and some standards to be enforced. Jackie Lambie, as I touched on earlier, she said she's turning it off. She was between the studio and going to the airport. She said, I'm off. I'm out of Twitter. I'm not going on there. I'm cancelling them, and other politicians should do the same. Michael.
Well, Jackie's mistake was to turn it on in the first place, Kieran. So there is a broad consensus. You know, in the Western world, the West tends to self-correct. It takes a while, but we self-correct against extremes of the left and right over the centuries. And we are at this inflection point at the minute where we are at an extremity, which is the unfettered Wild West, as Hanson Young described it. The cowboys in social media. They are tax avoiders. They publish defamation. Most recently, the most disgusting, vile anti-Semitism, Jew hatred that I've seen online. This has got to stop. And if Anthony Albanese and Peter Dutton can come together to stop this, without, by the way, the necessity for some government bureaucrat in Canberra to regulate conservative free speech, and this is the big challenge going forward, not to confuse the two, that would be a great step forward for the country. I mean, this has got to be brought to an end. And these people, by the way, as I said before, these people should start paying tax for a start before they lecture us about morality. By the way, I'm not accepting lessons. I'm not accepting lessons in morality from Musk or Zuckerberg or any of these people who've got all their headquarters in Ireland and then in the double tax treaties in blah 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 in the Bahamas. Forget it.
Yeah. You can't even get it. You can't even get onto them in Australia. They don't have a presence here. You ask for a media response. All good.
Not here.
Great communicators. Now, Stephen, on the ACTU, they are calling for an end to a military trade with Israel, the peak union body. What's your read on this intervention as the pressure continues? You see the Columbia protests at Columbia University, other Ivy League universities in the United States, pro-Palestinian cause. Where is this at right now, this debate?
Look, firstly, the good news in Australia is no leader from Bob Hawke to Paul Keating to Kevin Rudd to Julia Gillard, Labor leader, has ever taken any notice of the ACTU's foreign policy edicts. The ACTU has a long and tragic history, particularly when it comes to the Middle East, of being outrageously pro or anti-Israeli, I'll pretend it's pro-Palestinian, but a statement that refuses to address, which they put out yesterday, refuses to address Hamas's atrocities that commenced this war. They're atrocities that they've continued to perpetrate by holding on to the hostages. No accountability, no questions. We then have Iran, that arch manipulator behind the scenes, sending missiles into Israel, not one word. Then you find out over the last few days that most of the other Arab countries, with the US and the Western world, defended Israel from this Iranian attack. No condemnation of Iran, condemnation of Hamas. And here's the really simple thing. You want to end this war, ACTU, call on Hamas to surrender and return the hostages.
Yeah.
That's what the Germans did rather than face massive civilian casualties. It's what the Japanese did rather than face massive civilian casualties. In the war, Hamas, surrender. Hand the hostages over, and then let's get down to a settlement.
Michael, almost out of time, just quickly to you, your thoughts on that?
Well, what we've seen since October 7 are people crawling out from under rocks in the name of Palestinian statehood, many of whom are just Jew-hating anti-Semites, neo-Nazis, etc., worldwide. You've seen a rise in Jewish hatred, the oldest hatred of all, which we thought it would end in 1945. It hasn't, and it won't. The ACTU statement, separating what I've said from them, not to even mention Hamas in this statement, please give me a break. Give me a break.
Yep.
And finally, mate, where are the demonstrations against the Russian invasion of the Ukraine? There aren't that many Palestinians in Australia. Why aren't people demonstrating against Russia? Why aren't they demonstrating? Why isn't the Islamic community demonstrating against the Chinese oppression of the Uyghurs in China? Answer to all of these questions. Once you introduce Jews, as I said, out from under the rocks comes all the Jew haters that have thus been quiet, and you give them an inch and they take a mile. Disgraceful.
Michael and Stephen, gentlemen, I'll see you next week. Thanks.